for the entire community to be able to see and the entire community to be able to engage in. And also that I feel that with this plan, having had various individuals involved in the process, that it would allow them to ensure that we have that commitment that it will require for long term to stick by the plan, support the plan, and then be able to monitor the plan as we go along. So that is in essence the charge. And because we wanted to leverage the entire community, and by that I mean not only the NHPS community, but also the entire city and partners and constituents, um, we elected to leverage technology. So for that, we are using what is called Thought Exchange. And Thought Exchange is basically a platform that uses artificial intelligence to be able then to do amazing things that help you to save time. But what I loved about and here it is, what I love about this particular platform is that knowing that we're such a community that is rich of many, many languages, with through this platform, we're able to engage everybody because it will automatically translate in whatever language you speak. So that way, it was about, for me, it was about removing barriers for everybody to be able to participate in this process. So we are very excited about Thought Exchange, again, helping us go quicker, more efficient, and again, just bring in everybody and remove the barriers. I then started by providing a very clear timeline on how it is that we're going to get this work done. And here you see where we are in the process. By we, I mean my colleagues and I took the month of January to sort of like plan this out on how we were going to approach it. From there, elected to use this framework that calls for design sprints, meaning that you take small chunks, you design, and then you bring it back out so you can test it, you can collect feedback. So it kind of creates a feedback loop. That's what you see there when you see testing and feedback. But the whole idea here would be that if we engage in 3 design sprints, then we're going to be able to launch by June 20th, because my plan would be to take leverage of the last Board of Education meeting in May and bring it forward for their approval, so that then we can launch with our administrators before we go off to summer, so we can plan to fully implement when we come back in late August. In the next slide, I wanted to also show you that it is a very diverse team, and that was with intentionality that it was built this way. So I'm calling it, describing it as diverse. Right now, it is made up of 66 constituents that represent not only NHPS students, parents, staff, union representatives, Board of Education members, community partners, college and university partners, City of New Haven representatives, invited elders, state representatives, and clergy. And there below on the screen and in your slide, you can see some of the partners that right now are engaged in this process. In the last sprint that took place, we kicked it off in the first week in February 8th. We were very excited that 83% of that membership was able to be present in person to engage and participate in the first sprint. And I'm just noticing it says spring when it should say sprint. So there's a typo there. And the task of that first convening, when we came together, right, internal and external folks, was to understand, number one was to understand the anatomy of a strategic operating plan. I find that often, right, we love to throw words around, especially in education, and we love the alphabet soup, but often we just make an assumption that everybody knows what we're talking about. So what happened in that first convening is I took the time to leverage this image from my friends over at Education Elements that kind of shows a strategic plan and visual of a house to be able to explain to everybody what exactly is a strategic operating plan so that we have common language around what it is that we're building. So quickly, just want to share exactly what I shared with the whole committee, that a good plan, a strong plan, first of all starts understanding exactly what is our mission. So we have to make sure that as a district, as an HPS, that we're very clear about why we exist. That is our mission, why we exist, and also where it is that we want to go, right? If we know why we exist and we're very clear where we want to go, then we have to kind of create a roadmap on how it is that we're going to get there. But if we don't know why we exist and we don't know where we want to go, we sort of flounder and then we start getting lost along the way. And that this work also needs to consider that we are talking about New Haven Public Schools, right? And that as a community, there are core beliefs that we hold because we are New Haven. We are not East Haven, we're not West Haven, we are not Fairfield or UPIC, Hartford, we are New Haven. And we need to be very clear about what is it that we believe in. What is at the core of our values, because that needs to come into play as we think about our plan. And then from there, the work is about identifying what are going to be our priority areas for the next 5 years of this plan. So it doesn't mean that the other work doesn't exist. It's just saying that what are we prioritizing? Right? What do we have to hone in? What do we need to continue to work on and have a very clear plan to get at the results that we want through the objectives that we laid out for each of those focus areas, along with what are going to be our key progress indicators, because we have to, before even we build it and we think about it, how will it be measured? If we just have this lovely action plan, but we have no clue how we're going to measure it, how will we know that we are on the right path and that we measure based on the goals that we laid out? And that those goals need to be very realistic and attainable. And that there also needs to be a project management for every one of those goals so people know exactly how it is that we are going to realize what we're saying that we are planning for. So that all this time that we invest doesn't get wasted. So from there, in the next slide, I just highlighted for the team what is the current way that we articulate our mission statement in the New Haven Public Schools. We went through an exercise where folks basically have sticky notes and said, you know, what still resonates for them and what was written years ago. This is what was written back in 2019, 2020, right? So we want to revisit that to make sure, hey, is that still our North Star? Or has it changed? So we're going to take the time to revise our mission statement. We did the same thing with our vision statement, which is on the next slide, right? This is the one that was created again when the last plan was put into effect in 2020. And we did the same thing in the next slide with our core beliefs. And our core beliefs, right? We have always said that New Haven stands for equitable opportunities for all children to succeed, that we believe in a culture of continuous improvement, because at the end of the day, we're in education and we're never done learning, and that we believe in high expectations for everybody, as well as we believe that there has to be collaboration to be able to get this work done. So I asked the group to think about, are those the beliefs that we still stand by? Are there other beliefs that maybe are not captured that need to come into this new plan? So that again, this needs to ground whatever it is that we're saying our strategies are going to be. And then from there, what we did is we talked about identifying what will be our priorities, because that was the task of the first convening. I highlighted for them the current priorities as they stand in the current strategic operating plan. And then we engage in an exercise, and I think that's performance on the next slide. What we did is we got busy in our first convening. We, after going through that whole like building knowledge, where like a good teacher will do. So I built the knowledge around strategic operating plans. we went into our first task, which was to analyze the data. So what we did is that weeks before, we had used Thought Exchange, that platform that I show you, artificial intelligence. That went out via anybody that was in our system, in our PowerSchool system, and we put out what we call a Thought Exchange. We posed questions to the public, and there were 3 questions that we posed. We said, what do you believe is working well? What opportunities exist for improvement? And what are the most important skills and experiences our students need to get from their education in order to prepare them for success in learning and in life? So we collected that data, and what you see there is I do want to highlight that we were very excited that when we put out this thought, and thoughts are meant to be put out there with not too much time, they're supposed to be quick and easy. We got a total of 1,188 people who participated in answering the question, what is working well? And out of that, the way that this works is that once, let's say you go in and you answer the question, the other person also goes in and answers the question, but then you have an opportunity to rate it. Meaning, do I believe with your statement? Do I really feel strongly about your statement? So there's this rating system that goes from 1 star to 5 star. So it's like when you go to a restaurant, right? You finish your meal and you rate it very quickly. So people engage in that process, and that's where you see that there were 937 unique thoughts, right? So maybe Ms. Hannon's put out 3 things that she believes is going well. Maybe I put out another 3, but then in total, everybody put out 937 thoughts. And then 20,042 of those were rated, right? Meaning you rated some of them, you rated some of them. So together, 20,000 ratings that came in. The same thing happened with the what opportunities exist. And for that, we had a few more participants. There were 1,156 participants. There were 1,442 unique thoughts. And then there were 30,186 ratings. Right, so the ratings allowed us to really look like what's trending, right? What are the trends? What is in common that people believe? And lastly, the last question that we put out had a few less participants with 574, 551 thoughts, 9,480 ratings. So when people came on February 8th, they sat in groups, they analyzed this data, they were able to read what do people say, what are the patterns, what are the opportunities. And we did the same thing, the same exercise. We did it not only with the thought exchange, through the protocol that we call what do you notice, what do you wonder, what are your key takeaways? Again, a protocol to keep everybody structured and focused on the task. We did that with the thought exchanges, but we also did it with data, longitudinal data that we put in front of the team. And that data consisted of data related to literacy. So we look at years of literacy in New Haven Public Schools, math, enrollment, facility, what we call talented educators, meaning enrollment and retention data that we have. We looked at culture and climate data. We looked at finance. We looked at college and career. So again, they went through that same exercise. What do you notice? What do you wonder? What are the key takeaways? And after they have engaged in all of that analysis, we did one more task, and we said, now that you have all this learning about what people have to say, what you have to say as you have engaged with the data, what we did is we said to folks, okay, it is now time, based on what you're reading, based on what you're hearing from all of these thoughts and all of these ratings and all the data in front of you, what should be the priorities of the plan? And the beauty, again, we use the beauty of the artificial intelligence thought exchange. And instead of the old way, everybody writing, somebody types it, somebody has to analyze it, like, no, let's feed it into the program, right? And the program basically takes everything that is fed and puts it in this lovely analysis for you. So I do want to take a moment to share with you um, what we learned out of that first thought exchange. So here we have the responses indicates a strong emphasis on improving academic achievement, particularly in literacy and mathematics, as well as a focus on the development of social emotional skills. There is a call for increased family and community engagement and a need for equitable access for resources and opportunities for all students. The importance of attracting and retaining high quality teaching staff is highlighted, along with the need for professional development and support for educators. The responses also underscore the necessity for a safe and supporting learning environment, which includes addressing behavioral issues and ensuring the physical safety of school facilities. Furthermore, the need for a coherent and sustainable learning system is emphasized, along with the importance of using relevant and actual data to guide improvements. Lastly, the responses highlighted the importance of advocating for equitable school funding and addressing operational efficiencies. So basically, that's what we're hearing that is important for people, that they want to see priorities that address these key areas. And then here's another way to kind of look at it through what we say a word cloud, right? So you look at the words that are highlighted. So that is basically what it is in a nutshell. And then from there, where we are is that the team, this group of 66, after learning all of that, before we left, said, okay, based on that, what should be the priorities? What should be the focus areas? So there you see the focus areas right now: teaching and learning, culture and climate, family engagement, and operational efficiencies. And what we are doing right now, and actually I believe the thought exchange went out today, I put out another thought. And the thought was emailed to everybody and basically saying, this is what we met, we analyzed your data, this is where we are, we landed on this 4, confirm that these should be the 4, or if there's anything else missing, please tell us and why, right? So now we're engaging in that visual that I show you, testing, right, and feedback. So it's always the people in the room and the people out in the community, so I can cohere everything. So that is happening right now. And then those 66 people elected into, what's their choice? If these are the focus area, what's of interest to them? Because now they're going to be broken up into these subcommittees. And then when they convene again, and we're going to be convening on March 21st, March 21st, we'll be convening again in person. It'll be, okay, look at the data that came from the community, finalize the priorities, and now, next step is, let's get to work. Let's start now identifying what should be your strategies in these priority areas, what needs to be the action plans, how are we gonna measure it, and what are going to be our goals. So with that, there are 4 people right now, because there's 4 priority areas that are leading those subcommittees. So for example, Ms. Red Hannons is leading the teaching and learning. Dr. Finley is leading the operational efficiencies. Chief Joseph Lumpkin is leading family engagement, and Dr. White is leading culture and climate. Right, but again, after we finish this thought exchange, when these go, I give people about 4 days, right? Quick, say what you gotta say, and let's collect it. If another one surfaces, we'll add it, and then we'll say to people, hey, this one surfaced, you wanna shift? And then we'll balance out the subcommittees, and we're gonna get busy, and we're gonna get to work. Again, my idea is that I believe that when you have a focused, articulated plan that is strategic in nature, that involves community. It means that people believe in what is there and that it needs to be used as a roadmap. One of the things that I share with the team is, because I see it often happens, and I've seen it, saw you were building principal too, so I'm sure you know what I'm speaking about. Often you build it, beautiful, it reads beautiful, you get people to invest in creating these beautiful images. And the reality is that they get filed in a cabinet, and that's the end of it. And that is not my experience with the strategic operating plan, right? I've been in a system where we use the strategic operating plan where literally everything that we do is guided by what's in that plan. So when asks come up, when ideas come up, we say, that's great. Let's see how they align with the plan. And if they align with the plan, yes. But ideas come up out of left field, like, they don't quite align. So that means that's going to have to kind of sit a little down here because we got to get to these first. Because at the end of the day, that is the plan that needs to get to the bottom line. And for me and for us, the bottom line is, how are we going to increase student achievement? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're hired for, right? That's what we're leading for. And for me and for all of us, right? It's personal. Personal in that these are lives. We have over 19,000 lives in our hands. And if we are not preparing them for when they leave us, and when they leave us, meaning that they're leaving high school with a plan, whether that be I'm going to college, or whether it be I am going because I want to go to the military, or guess what, I want to go straight into a job, right? If we're not preparing them for them to fulfill that plan, then I would have to say that we didn't do right by them, and we didn't do right by their families. And I believe to my core that is education that allows us to change our future. Our future, it does. It can help us break out of poverty. It can help us realize a lot of things, but that's found through what we do as a school district. So that is the plan. I have my co-leads with me tonight so that I can take any questions that you have, and we can, again, answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And before we do that, I just want to recognize all the marks. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. A lot of it rings bells for me, but a little differently. I mean, this is pretty exciting. I think it's going to work out a lot better than they have in the past. And no, not that they didn't work hard in the past. I'm not saying that. But anyway, are there any questions from my colleagues? Yep. Alder Miller.
Thank you for the presentation and all the work and creativity that went into it. It is, I think, really exciting and different and very promising. As you mentioned, Dr. Negron, we are really good at writing plans in New Haven and then ignoring them. And so I'm wondering if you can tell us, you touched on this a little bit, but sort of what you've maybe learned from other colleagues too, from previous plans that we've had, and some of the ways in which you might look at implementation of this going forward and how that's baked into the process that you're going through now.
So I will start and I'll leave my colleagues chime in. If we have a very clear and realistic goal that we're setting out for whatever we say that strategy is going to be in that particular focus area, I want people first to think about how will we measure it, meaning, one, how do we measure fidelity of implementation? That's one, right? So that's like the adult action. But second, how does that translate then into student outcomes? So I will be looking for two measures, right? Is the fidelity of implementation happening, number one, and two, what am I connecting it to see impact on something in that area that will connect, that I should be able to see in a student outcome. But then, right, everybody does that. The second piece would be that every strategy, let's say, let me pick on family engagement. Let's say that there's a strategy that comes out of family engagement, and that we outline, okay, what's the fidelity implementation and what's the student outcome. That off the outset, there would have to be an action plan. If that's my strategy, this year, what's my action? What am I doing first? What am I doing second? What am I doing third? Who's assigned to it? And then basically, and these folks haven't heard me use this term, but there will be like like what we call a priority executive sponsor, meaning somebody is responsible, one person, not everybody, because if you say everybody, oh no, I thought you had it. No, I thought you had it, right? And then nobody's responsible. One person that becomes the executive sponsor, meaning that when I engage them, right, in the one-to-ones to be, okay, where are we with this particular one? What's the movement? What are the roadblocks, right? That's the person that's in charge of convening the group and always staying on top. How is that progressing? So then along the way, we can assess and be like, oh, wait a minute, this didn't actually work the way we thought it would work. Clearly, now we have to tweak it, right? Because these plans are supposed to be flexible too. That you go in time, you go and you tweak. But what I'm saying is that that's how we get our monitoring, right? Somebody's responsible for it. And now we say I'm kind of getting folks trained to my own leadership as a superintendent in terms of, right, the work that I've done so far as it relates to something as simple as attendance. And the way that right now, like, that gets monitored. The way that things around literacy are being monitored, right? So that'll be one way, but I do want to let my teammates chime in.
So I'll say, for me, one of the biggest levers that we're pushing at this time is messaging. If you ask me what's different about even the development of our strategic plan now versus in the past, our level of engagement. We've engaged people in the room. We've gone beyond the room. We've never, since I've been in New Haven Public Schools, had an opportunity where we're engaging thousands of folks at one time to respond and really taking that analysis, looking at that data and analyzing it with the folks in the room. We recognize everyone cannot be in the room. We talk to other districts and they hear how large our team is. They're like, wow, but we understand the power of engagement. So messaging is one. The second, and Dr. McGraw touched on it, around action steps, it's all about execution. Because our action steps will be very clear and there will be a very clear monitoring protocol that will have steps along the way that are realistic. During our first convening on February 8th, we talked about SMART goals and what does it mean to set a SMART goal in HPS and just period in an organization. And so as we continue with messaging, as we continue to provide updates to community that's within New Haven Public Schools, but also our external partners as well, everyone will move in the same direction. And I don't think we've had that high level of messaging across NHPS in the past.
And the only thing I will add is just being very intentional. Having a million strategies, a million priorities, and not doing any of them at a high level is just, you're struggling from the start. So being intentional about our priorities, not going in saying, hey, we have 20 strategies and 40 this, 50 that, and then you can't monitor it. And provide the resources that actually implement the strategy. So being very intentional around what we're doing with our teams, so that we have something that's solid, that we can really execute, monitor, and improve.
Okay, thank you. Just one follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chair. So the city at the same time is embarking on this comprehensive city planning process for Vision 2034. So I just wanted to get, if you've given any thought to how this dovetails with that, since schools are a part of that, and where you see them connecting or diverging.
So I think that's why we really wanted to bring people that were from the community. In, like, for example, we have city representation, a variety of people partners, because those are the same folks, right, that are gonna, be talking about what should be that plan for the 2034. So we do have that opportunity to make sure, again, that is a plan that is coherent. So I know a lot of the conversation too, for example, is where is it that we want to go as it relates to things like college and career, right? I know that that is something that it's of interest on this plan too for the city, because we know, right, and the mayor has said it multiple times, and you know, I said it during my acceptance speech when I was given the honor to be hired, that we know, right, it's about how do we continue to have the city thriving. City can't thrive if we're not producing graduates that are ready, right, to engage in work and be able to have a solid future to be able to then contribute, right, to the city. So I think that's how I see that these plans have to be connected.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from Alder Crespo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wonderful presentation, Dr. Negron, and for sharing with us. Thank you for your time and for each and every one to be here. My question, revolves around what the assistant superintendent had mentioned. What are the realistic action steps in considering, the spring one, where it's mentioning the need for equitable access and high quality, or to retaining and attracting high quality teaching staff? One of the things that we do is we hire great staff and then they just leave. Have we thought of actual plans on how to keep them, how to maintain them, and not just keeping them, but attracting the well prepared that, for example, we have students from all walks of life. And there's a diverse group of languages. Predominantly though, it's Spanish. We have a lot of Latinos within the schools. And have we thought about acquiring those teachers? Because, working with other agencies, as a coordinator, as an alder, I've seen where there's just a lacking of educators, a lacking of those professionals that can give that teaching plan, that curriculum. So that's my first question. And then the second question would be regarding the equitable school funding, regarding the operational efficiencies. We are the financial authority of the city, and we've been, funding the Board of Ed for as long as I can remember. So what's happening to those funds where you still see equitable school funding? What are we doing that to provide the teachers with the appropriate equipment and not having to have them take out of their own pockets to provide for the children, to provide for the curriculum, to say, I need to buy my own school supplies, I need to buy my own things. What have we done, realistically to address that particular need? Because every year we keep funding it, we increase the funding, we provide more funding. So how can we address that realistically?
I love that you're bringing up these two questions today. So perfect timing. Thank you for that. Just on Monday, we put forth a plan for, this one was in particular for our educator diverse educator, I'm blanking on the name right now, but as part of legislation, every district now has to put forth on March 15th what their plan is going to be to recruit a diverse workforce. So that plan, the team that has been working has put something together. We presented that to the board on Monday. It was approved. So now we just literally Tuesday submitted that plan to the state. That's what we're required to, waiting for it to be approved. But basically, a lot of the things that we're thinking of, one for recruitment is, one, how do we continue to diversify so that the children for our kids, right, look like the children that we serve, number one. Second is how do we leverage our own kids? Because the reality is that there's a shortage.
Yeah.
And it's not only New Haven, it's a national teacher shortage, because people are not lining up to say, yay, I want to be a teacher, right? Because teaching has become more and more challenging than ever before, right? So it's how do we leverage our own kids to get them interested to become future teachers? Because they understand the community, right? They're here. So for example, when I talk about our career pathways, we have one of our pathways is an education pathway. So how do we invest in that education pathway that we have now to continue to support our own students, to keep them excited, engage in dual enrollment and everything, to get speed up and everything that they need to become a teacher, and even more, how can I leverage partnerships with universities to get support financially for these kids to go straight right into college? And my vision would be, hey, how can I help you get there? Support for financial aid, but guess what? When you graduate, you have a job.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one way, our own kids. Second, how do we invest in our own paraprofessionals? Right? They're with us, they work for us, they know the realities of the classroom. Many of them have degrees. How do we support them to continue to get their teacher certificate? So for example, with the ESSER dollars that came in, the district did an amazing partnership through the leadership of Assistant Superintendent Keisha Red Hannans with Southern Connecticut State University. And right now, we have paraprofessionals who went through the program, who are certified, who are now classroom teachers. So how do we continue to expand on that so that again, there's funding, right? Right now, most recently, I'm sure you heard also about the plan that we were able to work out with Yale so that we get a fellowship to support our teachers in going and getting a master's degree. That's an investment in teachers so that they'll stay, right? Like a retention strategy. But I'm also talking about how do I even go outside of New Haven to look for teachers? How do I go to Puerto Rico? How do I go to the Caribbean, right? How do I go elsewhere to attract people to come to New Haven and become part of the community and become teachers? So I'm looking at this multi-tiered track to attract. But second, attracting is not good enough, right? How do we keep them? And I believe we keep them, one, through a good, solid onboarding process, so that people feel good, right? Hey, I made the right decision in signing up to teach for New Haven, so that's a good experience. And two, once they're in the classroom, how do we continue to support them? How do we continue to support them through their professional learning so they continue to grow, learn really the essence of that grade level, the teaching material, right, the pedagogy, and also how do we support them with the resources that are available in the school to support everything else, right? Like the climate of that building. How do we support that? Or facilities, right? So that's the plan as it relates to your first question. Second question is equitable funding. I mean, I understand when you say, right, you continue to support the district. I cannot speak for before, but I can speak for now. We know that in the analysis that I'm doing right now, and I'm very worried. I have to say I'm very worried. And I think every district was worried what was going to happen at the end of ESSER, right? The reality is here, right? The cliff is here. And the reality is that there's going to be a significant hole. We have been able to do so many great things that we would not have been able to do without the ESSER dollars. The new curriculum, just to pick on one, right? We are aligned now with the science of reading. We brought in, again, through the leadership of Keisha Beth Hannon, our assistant superintendent, brought in Arriba la Lectura and Into Reading, which is from the company HLH. Research-based material. All classrooms equipped with that material. We're talking millions of dollars. Just the materials. The materials that we brought in for science, so that is hands-on, research-based, millions of dollars invested. Let alone the training that needs to happen to train everybody, millions of dollars. But the reality is that when you look at our budget, and that'll be something that we will bring forth to you, I believe it is March 11th, if I'm not mistaken, that I will come before you, right? The reality is that our education system has been funded primarily, when you look at the local contribution, it's all going to our staff. It's all going to our staff. Transportation, staff for special education. When you look at actual programming, everything has been coming out of grants. Grants have dried out. You know that, you're an executive director. Grants have dried out. We will continue to search for dollars wherever they are and go after those grants. That is why in the budget I'm asking for a grant writer, because I need to find a way to bring in money, right? But the reality is that there are tough times ahead. But at the same time, right, that I feel the responsibility And I think that that's where, having lived what it means to be poor, you learn to stretch a dollar, right? And you learn to be very wise about your spending. I think I bring that lens, and right now, literally what I'm doing is picking up every rock, looking underneath to say, okay, what moves can we make to save a little here, a little there, right? Without cutting anybody, right? But I'm gonna have to make some moves because we can no longer have the luxury to say, okay, I'm gonna have 5 kids in a classroom, one teacher. Can't afford it. Can't afford it. We love to do it, but again, that's a luxury that we can't take. Unfortunately, we're in an urban environment, and yes, we need to continue to advocate to our state reps. We need the ECS formula to be fully funded because that would be a huge help. Right, it starts there. We need education cost sharing formula that will be fully funded to be able to support urban environments like ours. That when we look at what we spend and we have that comparison to how much do we spend per student compared to our neighbors, it's not even close. It's not even close, right? So how do we bring that equitable funding? How do we do right by our kids? Getting our kids ready when they graduate costs dollars. So somehow we got to figure out where does that come, but also by being smart. So I'll share it, and I know I'm being long-winded, but I'm gonna take the opportunity because you gave me the opportunity, right? And I know April 11th is down the road. Another example, right? When I think about summer learning opportunities, we did the analysis. Ms. Hannons told me we spent $4 million last year on summer learning opportunities. And I'm going, well, I'm telling you right now, heads up, we're not. We are not spending $4 million in summer learning opportunities. We're not. We don't have that luxury. Would I love to spend $4 million? Yes, but I have to be wise with the dollars that you give me, right? And the reality is that we are mandated to offer K-3 for students who do not meet reading criteria. Those are the kids that we need to serve in the summer. Kids that have an IEP, we need to serve them because they need extended learning in the summer. That's what we're mandated, right? That's the bare minimum. Of course, we're New Haven, we're gonna do better than that, right? Because we wanna offer programming to all of our kids, right? All of our kids. We wanna offer credit recovery so that our high schoolers can gain credit in the summer, right? Keep them on track to graduate. But we're gonna have to be wiser. And I know that before was like, yeah, we wanna do this fun program. We're gonna do that fun program. And we're gonna do that fun program. Well, guess what? That fun program costs money. Every time I open a building, that costs money. Can't have that luxury. So there's a team right now, whole team working together, already planning summer. What is summer gonna look like? What are gonna be the learning opportunities? Yes, with a purpose. What's the purpose? Learning, academic learning. Second, social emotional support. Third, joy. We also, not being mean, also want our kids to have fun in the summer, right? We're gonna integrate the learning with fun, but to be in a way that again is sustainable. And I know I can't spend $4 million. So when we talk about messaging, I describe myself as a realist. That's what I mean. Those are the conversations. But am I going to come to you come April 11th to be like, oh my God, I need support and I need money? Yeah, I'm going to say, I need some serious money because we have a deep hole. But please know I'm looking under every rock to see where we can find the savings. Because we know, right, the city's in a tight space too. We realize that. We all pay taxes, and it hurts if we don't have to pay taxes.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, are there any other questions? No, I have a couple. You know, after seeing a lot of these plans and when they're complete, Dr. Negron, you made a great point. People look at them and they put them in a drawer. I've seen it. I probably have done it when I was a classroom teacher. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is, you know. And the reason why is because it didn't have any teeth to it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I did, you know, I have to teach my kids that. You know,
Yes, yes.
you know, that's, you know, how would you introduce this to your staff the system. And who are the key players? Because I think that's so important. I mean, it sounds like this is going to be a great opportunity for the city of New Haven and for the kids. But I think how we introduce it and how people gravitate to it and latch onto it is going to be the key, in my mind.
Could not agree with you more. So for example, I am big, and I think people now know after 8 months, I am big as it comes to systems and structures, because it's all about the systems and the structures that we laid out, especially in a large system like us, right? We're the second largest in the state. Second is, to give you an example, and Keisha Red Hannon's mentioned, right? It's all about the messaging. It's all about involving everybody, right? Getting people to buy in and be excited about it, right? Behind it. We got city engineers sitting with us, being excited about stuff. I'm like, wow, I got a city engineer excited about this work. I'm taking it. I got the from the Chamber of Commerce. Blanking on his name. Garrett, last name.
Sheehan.
Garrett Sheehan. Excited about this work, right? So getting people excited from the get-go, number one. But number two, you and I know, and this was my messaging first day with the administrators in this district. I went straight to them, brought the research to them. The research is very clear. The most important person that is going to get student achievement, back before it used to be the classroom teacher. The new research is like, it's the building leader.
Absolutely.
Is the building leader, because the building leader is the one that creates the culture inside of that school, right? And connects everything that's coming from the top, starting from there. So to answer your question, is that's where I'm going, and that's why I'm being intentional about had that timeline. I want to create it. We're not going to waste time. We're going to create it, be focused, get it done, get it approved by the board. The last meeting of this academic year with our administrators, they already know. I said in the past, we used to do these wellness activities, go to the park, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm sorry, but we're not going to go to the park. We're going to be sitting down. I don't mean to be mean, but we're going to be sitting down, and that will be the introduction. Like, here is the plan. This is what you are tasked. You need to own it, know it in and out, because there'll be responsibilities that they'll have in their individual schools, with their teachers, with their families, with community. We're going to be continuing to message to community. Every time I do a report, guess what? It's going to be connected back to the plan. This is where we are in this priority. This is where we are in this priority. Just like I'm doing now as it relates to attendance and literacy. So that's how I see it, that I'll be able to keep it moving and make sure that, number one, we leverage our school principals that are so important, so key to the work.
You're absolutely correct. The building leader sets the culture, makes the world a difference. And now, having said that, do you plan to have some kind of monitoring system or people that will monitor specific schools? And I don't want to say principals, I mean to say, but principals, to make sure it's getting done.
So that happens right through our continuous improvement process. Like right now, we are investing in training everybody on what's called DataWise from Harvard. So it gives us a structure to teach people how do we keep our eye on our data and be able to plan with that data in mind. Mm-hmm. So we're doing that so that we can mine all kinds of data, whether it's student achievement data, or whether it's facility data, right? So all of that process is happening now. But there is a structure right now that we have people assigned to oversee, for lack of a better word, networks of school, and that is our assistant superintendents, who are the ones that are then supposed to be working with principals, right? Yeah. Meeting and discussing as their agendas, like how are we doing in this area? But I think our job becomes, as the leaders of this plan, that would be that how are we also supporting? Because it isn't all compliance. This work is not about compliance. This work, yes, compliance and monitoring, but it's all about how do we build their capacity? How do we continue with the learning, the professional learning? How do we do this, right? Just like there was a team to design it, there will be a team that monitors how we're doing this plan. So it isn't us closing the door, central office doing it in silo, right? It's a group of people doing it. how do we communicate to the community to say, hey, this is where we are. This is, this is the data that we're seeing. Here are the struggles, right? So again, bringing back what I mentioned at the beginning, it's about transparency, ownership, and the collaboration.
Thank you. My last thought, my last question. Looking at the design team, the priority areas, teaching and learning, climate, and family and engagement, operational efficiencies. The most important one obviously is teaching and learning. Okay. But there's some things that have to be a prerequisite to teaching and learning, or that does not happen. So are you going to prioritize these priority areas so that, they have to work hand in hand, obviously, but, it doesn't work. And my other thought is that, I don't know what your plan's going to look like physically on paper, but if it's simple and concise and not busy, it'll work.
We're laughing because that's what we're aiming for, right? Can everybody pick it up and make sense out of it?
Yeah.
Like what exactly is it what's their plan? What are they working on? So yes, that will be part of it. And also, to answer your question, right? I can't tell you exactly because again, I have a team designing it.
Right, yeah.
So this is not one of those like top down. The group is designing it, leveraging the voice from the community, right? But we do want to be very intentional, like Dr. Finley mentioned. We can't be all over the place. We know we're not going to get it. There's a lot, but it's about how do we prioritize and then what are the action steps? Few, so that we can be good and focused. If we're all over the place, we can say, hey, we're doing all these great things, but at the end of the day, we're probably not being good at anything.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions?
One more.
Yeah,
if that's okay,
absolutely.
Mr. Chair. I really appreciate that you have a team and you're building it from the bottom up. I wonder, just kind of to end, if you can point to, as the leader, like one goal that for you is a priority, that if it's not in there, the plan is missing something.
So I think, of course, we already have teaching and learning because we're in the business in teaching and learning. We have the families because without the families, we can do this work. And those really have to be what I call true partnerships, right? Two-way partnerships. But goals for me, again, I think continues to be literacy. If we cannot get our kids to meet where they need to be at for literacy, it becomes harder. So for me, that's one, but also college and career for me, it's tough. Because again, if we're not investing, right, I can do all this effort. Be like, okay, so you graduated, so what? Right? But then we're not doing it justice. So for me, those things are essential. But there are a lot, right? But also how do we invest in our teachers? How are we investing in every member of the organization so that we build capacity, right? We ask people to do a million things, but how do we support them so that they can be at their best in doing their work? And that comes through that cycle of continuous improvement through professional learning. So lots of ideas. Right now, I've been all about attendance and literacy. I already told the team I have to be just as intense as I've been on literacy and attendance. Next, I'm moving to culture and climate. We got to get a handle of the culture and the climate inside of our buildings. And again, that's going to require a lot of partnerships. But we gotta just get a hold of that. Or we're not able to teach anything.
Alder Crispo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After hearing what you were saying, Dr. Monroe, and one of the things as we prepare to have these students be successful in the careers, in the professional academic careers, certain things I'm not sure that they're being taught at all. I'm certain that it wasn't taught when I was in school, was how to build a resume, how to prepare to apply for a job, What is it with regards to financial literacy that you should be aware of, such as budgeting, opening a bank account? You know, I didn't learn that until I was 15 when a friend of mine said, "Oh, come, let's go open a bank account." What? Well, open what? You know, and at the time it was Bank of Wachovia, where I'm thinking, I'll go with you, but I don't know what I'm doing. So thankfully, at 15, I had, you know, the Youth at Work ID, which had your social security number, your name, your address, your date of birth, and a picture of yourself. And because of Youth at Work giving me that you know, ID, if you will, I was able to open up a bank account. But I didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was to have a late fee or overcharging for, you know, withdrawing over the limit. Because as we prepare to get them to be ready for their careers, you know, something as basic as budgeting, you know, how to save, you know, how to consume less than what you're making so that you don't go overboard. And then we can, as we continue to build their careers, maybe start forming some sort of generational wealth where they're going to be able to say, not only am I saving and I'm going to be successful, but now let me think about purchasing a house, being a homeowner, instead of being, you know, having to either rent or have some need of. One of the things that we do as legislators is affordable housing. But at what point are we teaching them, let's move out of that mindset once you're in a career path that it's going to be something that you love and you're going to be able to afford your things. Because ultimately we will provide the assistance that we can, but we also want to provide stability, financial stability, you know, and have the ability to get a good education and then be successful once you're out. Because like you said, Dr. Negron, okay, you graduated, but what? Do you have a good job? Do you have a path to being successful? So some of those things that were never thought in high school, at least when I was in school.
Things have changed.
Yes.
So financial literacy, for example, right, is a state mandate, and we are aligned with that. And then there are ways in which we do these other pieces, and I'm going to let Assistant Superintendent of Academics here kind of share all the ins and outs.
So thank you for the question. So for our current ninth grade class, and classes moving forward, they are required to take a financial literacy class for exact reasons that you just mentioned. And also within our career connected pathways that we have within our high schools and that we're building out right now, we're connecting our students. Our students are actually taking some courses on college campuses. So they're being exposed at this time to college life, college students, a lot more seminars and folks who are close in age, if you will, coming and speaking with our students as well about what it takes to be a successful student or a successful citizen beyond the high school years. So we have those, if you will, some soft skills also working. Our students also participate in Naviance. That is our online platform to match them up with career interests, but it also has information to help with how do you build a resume. We're also building out internships for our students, providing them with those experiences. When I was in school, that didn't exist at those times. So it is evolving in the right direction, and recognizing that our students need to meet the current needs and demands of the workforce, as well as the colleges as well.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Any other questions from anyone? Thank you so much. Appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. We're off to see our Hill House team who's playing for the Southern Connecticut Championship.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item?
I move that we close or adjourn the meeting.
Second.
You have to close the board portion.
I remove my motion and I make a friendly amendment. I move that we close the public portion of this meeting.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.
Vote.
Vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you
Good job,
so much.
Chair.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It was mainly me because I couldn't do it.